Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another video as we look into the Book of Ecclesiastes as I journey with you while I reflect and revisit the Book of Ecclesiastes where God met me in my grief. Hopefully, God is meeting you in your grief in a way that truly is necessary for you, because the Book of Ecclesiastes helped me. It's how God met me and got me through my grief, and hopefully he can meet you too, either in this way or in a different way. But just welcome to today's video. We're looking into chapter 3, and honestly it's going to be a bit of a vulnerable video because of the day I'm recording it. It is my birthday, and as you know, occasions like this are really hard to get through when you're grieving, because on one end you want to enjoy the moment and be like, oh my gosh, for example, it's my birthday, so excited. But at the same time, oh my gosh, the person I have spent all my life celebrating my birthday with me is no longer here to celebrate it with me. It's sad. And yeah, I just feel like recording this morning. I've been wanting to record before, but life was happening. But I want to record this morning. And I actually want to start off with a devotion that is here next to this chapter. I'm reading from the My Creator Bible and the ESV version. So the title for today is that beauty takes time. The devotion is that God makes all things beautiful. He is the master of changing ugly and broken things in this world into something marvelous. If you feel sad today because you had a fight with your best friend or you got into trouble for something, know that God will change the bad times into good times again. But it won't always happen right away. It often takes time. It takes time because the beauty that comes from God is deep and lasting. Trust that God's time is good and right. Trust Him for the eternal beauty that is on its way. Okay, before I dive right into this chapter, I want to clarify that I have not rehearsed anything, and I have not read through this chapter before recording this video. I am literally revisiting it with you. So if I'm all over the place, please forgive me, please be patient with me, and let's just keep it authentic. As you can tell, it is a cozy, cold morning, and let's just dive right into it, basically. Let's start with verse 1. A time for everything. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. There is a season. I want to note that seasons can last for months, but I feel like when it's with God, it can either last, whatever you're going through, whatever thing is happening, can either last for a month, months, days, a moment, a split second, or even years. And a time for every matter under heaven, I think that it is different. This is not one thing occurring over and over again, which does happen. Like sometimes seasons repeat themselves. I feel like if you don't accomplish what you are needed to do in a particular season, God will bring that season back until you accomplish what is needed to be done. And He will walk with you through that. And also, I want to highlight that seasons are changing. They are ever changing. No season is exactly the same. It continuously changes. That's why I'm also saying like it's different. A time for every matter under heaven. They're just different things going on. And I want to clarify also before I continue is that when I say that God met me in the Book of Ecclesiastes, and throughout all of this, I was doing a personal Bible study with Him when I first turned to Him in my grief in His Word. He was walking me through this, and I'm sharing with you what I have learned, as well as new things that I just feel are on my mind and on my heart in this moment. But please continue to have wisdom and discernment as you watch, let whatever resonates with you resonate with you, but understand that you need to read your Bible more than you need to hear somebody else's voice. The voice that needs to be the most heard in your life is from God. And how to hear his voice can be found in reading his word, remaining in prayer, and even fasting. So please just be in tune with God more than anything else. And if he is guiding you to this video, then definitely welcome, and let's continue. A time to be born and a time to die. When I read be born, I think about new beginnings, new life, new birth. And a time to die, I think of letting go, leaving something behind, or just letting go, because sometimes you don't want something to be gone, but yet it is taken from you. And you can't bring it back because it's out of your control. So you just need to let go. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. When I read a time to plant, I think about Matthew 13:1-9, which reads that same day Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil. And immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil, and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Matthew 13:18-23 reads, Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he folds away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, and in another 60, and in another 30. When I read and a time to pluck up what is planted, I think about Galatians 6:7-8, that reads, Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that he will also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption, but the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. A time to kill, or to put an end to, and a time to heal, to restore. Because I feel like with the healing, there's restoration in what was lost. And it's also beautiful because we serve a God that restores what is dead and gone, what is broken. He restores, and he is the light into that darkness. A time to break down or shatter, because I'm thinking of like breaking down, like glass falling and just shattering all over the place. And a time to build up, I'm thinking about constructing, like construction, because like how buildings are made, there's so much details being done into making a building, and I feel like building up something takes a lot of detail and can't be rushed, because if something is not built well, then it could fall into pieces very easily. I'm thinking about that parable. Is it a parable? I think it's a parable whereby the man builds his house on the rock. like setting his foundation on God, because when his foundation is on God, he is firm and nothing can destroy him, nothing can move him. Like his house, when it's built on a rock, it is steadfast, it's like steady and everything's okay. And I'm gonna put it here because I forgot the details about it, but this is it. And let's move on. A time to weep. I'm thinking about it. A time to feel. Because getting to a point of tears is a lot. For some people, it's easy to cry and let it out, but for others, crying is really hard to do. And when they do it, it means that there's like a lot of emotions in the mix of things. So when I read a time to weep, I think about a time to just have a moment to feel. And I'm reading Genesis, right? Aside from this, I'm reading Genesis. And right now, I've been reading about Joseph. Joseph cried. This man cried. He cried, he cried, he felt, he wept. And it was so beautiful to read, excuse me, because he would take a moment. Something would happen that would trigger emotions, and it would read like he went somewhere, he cried, or he broke down and he cried, and then he collected himself and moved on. And I feel like we often don't take that time to allow ourselves to feel before moving on, but it is so important to do that, because it is in those small moments that build up habits and trust in your body to understand that it is okay to feel. And a time to laugh. I'm reading about love and I think about enjoying and resting in God, because it is so hard to enjoy and live in the moment and laugh and be carefree. Finding freedom when your mind is anchored in other things. When your mind is anchored in God and you're resting in God and you're trusting in God, it's like the Proverbs 31 woman. She laughs at the days to come because she's free. She's trusting God. Whatever happens, happens, you know? That doesn't mean that she won't feel her emotions that are sad, but rather she will feel those emotions and also move in trusting God. A time to mourn. I think about grieve. A time to grieve, a time to cry, a time to let it out, a time to do what they did in the Bible. When they were grieving over something, they would sit in ashes, they would change their clothes, and they would grieve. And they were comfortable letting everyone know, hey guys, I am grieving. I'm going through something. So there is a time to mourn and a time to dance. I think of dancing in terms of walking in freedom. Walking in freedom, it's similar to laughing. The fact that you can't enjoy yourself when you're not trusting in God, when you've got so much on your mind. How are you going to dance? How are you going to laugh? But there is a time for dancing. There is a time to just cast all your anxieties on God because He cares for you. Philippians 4:7, I think. There's a time to just rest in Him, a time to just enjoy life, because God didn't put you on this world to suffer. Yes, this world is full of suffering, but there are also moments when you are allowed to dance, you are allowed to be free. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones. Cast away stones. I think about letting God provide, because remember construction, when I just said construction, building up and everything? Sometimes you gotta cast away your stones and trust that God is using bricks, firm bricks that are strong enough to hold together what you guys are building. And a time to gather stones. There's a time for you to also put in the effort to get the stones that will help complete what God is doing in your life. Because God can do so much for you. But a lot of times you need to work in partnership with Him to allow Him to do what needs to be done and to just allow for His promises to take place. Also, this verse entirely, I think about a time to trust in God's provision. Because when you are casting away your stones and leaving it in God's hands and trusting that He is building, you are trusting that He is providing. But when you're also like allowing there to be a time to gather stones, you are also trusting that God is providing the stones for you to gather and labor with. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. The word embrace reminds me of being in relationships. There's a time to be in community and to be hands-on in community, helping others and allowing people to help you. But refrain from embracing, I think about a season of isolation, because sometimes you are isolated and maybe that's shame and guilt overwhelming you that you're isolating yourself. That is not good. That's when you need to step out and be with your community and trust people. But also, when there are times of isolation, there are also times whereby God is calling you to a season of being alone with Him. And in those seasons, you are embracing God in the most beautiful, beautiful way. A time to seek. I think about ambition, because you are truly, truly seeking with the passionate heart whatever God has for you. And a time to lose. I think about acceptance, because when you are accepting, when you are losing something, you can't really keep it, because sometimes it's really out of your control that you can't do anything to hold it firm in your life, and you just have to accept that it's gone. A time to keep. I think about Luke 12:21, and it reads, "So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward heaven." And the reason why this verse in particular popped up is because of the parable above it, or the parable that it is in, it's the parable of the rich fool. And this parable explains that you shouldn't try to find meaning and purpose in possessions, because they are all temporary, but rather you should make sure that you prioritize your relationship with God above anything else. So when I read a time to keep, there is a time to keep things in your life, but never put those things above God. Always store up your treasures in heaven above your treasures on earth. Also, there is a time, it's written actually, and a time to cast away, a time to let go, a time to tear. I think about anger. I think about burning bridges, because when I read tear, I thought about like tearing a page, tearing a paper, just going. But as I'm reading now, I'm thinking tear as in tears. There's a time to cry. Let me just write that down actually, before I forget. And a time to sow. I think of make amends. I don't know, I'm thinking about sewing. When something tears and you gotta sew it back together? And I'm reading that, I'm thinking about making amends, allowing something to be reattached, to be mended, to be sewn together. I don't know what other word to use. But there's also a time to keep silence. I'm reading about silence and I'm thinking about listening. Sometimes you got to sit there and listen and be quiet. That reminds me of James 3:5, which reads, "So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire." I don't know why I didn't write this down, but it actually also reminds me of that verse where it says you need to be slow to speak and quick to listen. I'm going to put that verse here because I don't remember it and I don't have my laptop to look it up. Okay, there's also, it's written here, "and a time to speak," which reminds me of Matthew 7:6, which reads, "Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you." It's like, as much as there is a time to speak, I think also speak in wisdom. Speak in wisdom and discernment. Don't just go around blabbering things, but rather speak with intention. A time to love and a time to hate reminds me that love God, His creations, and hate the enemy. Let's not forget that God is love. And if God is in us, then we have the most beautiful ability to love unconditionally. He teaches us how to love. A time for war and a time for peace. When I read war, I think about a battle. It reminds me of spiritual warfare. There is a time to fight. There's a time to fight with God. There's a time to put on the full armor of God and just fight. But there is also a time for peace, which I think of rest. And it reminds me of Matthew 5:9, which reads, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." The God-given task. What gain has the worker from his toil? Never forget that you should seek validation from God. I have seen all the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. We all have a job to do. We all have a calling over our lives. Above all, we are all united in the calling of making disciples and building up the church, but we also all have individual callings over our lives. That's why God blessed us with gifts and talents. It is not to be used in vain, but rather to be given back to God. He has made everything beautiful in its time. And that reminds me of Esther 4:14, which reads, "For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this." Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. This reminds me of Jeremiah 31:33, that reads, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people." And the note I have here about this is also that God is bigger than we can comprehend. I perceive that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. And this makes me think about the fact that we should enjoy life, and reminds me of Matthew 6:25, that reads, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing?" Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. Life is a gift from God. Let's never forget that. I perceive that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done it, so that people fear before him. When I read the word added, I'm actually thinking about Matthew 6:33, that reads, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." And also, when I read God has done it, I think about the fact that we need to walk in this. We need to walk with the freedom and understanding that we know God has done it. He will finish what he has started. And when I read, so that people fear before him, I think about King of Kings. That which is already has been. That which is to be already has been. And God seeks what has been driven away. I have a little note here that says, he will allow repetition for a lesson. And for a reason, I think. That goes back to what we said in the beginning about seasons, and the fact that it reminds me really that God will repeat a season in your life until you have accomplished what needs to be done in it. From dust to dust. Moreover, I saw under the sun that in the place of justice, even there was wickedness, and in the place of righteousness, even there was wickedness. The world we live in is not good. Let's just highlight that. The world we live in is not good. But it reminds me of Revelation 21:1, that reads, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more." So I think as much as this world is wicked and there's so much going on, let's not forget the fact that there is a new world that is gonna come. Like when we give our life to Jesus, we have an opportunity to be embracing this new earth with him, this new earth of goodness, this new earth of no wickedness. I said in my heart, I don't know, I highlighted that. I guess I like the fact that you kind of like reflect with yourself at times, and there's nothing wrong with that. God will judge. God is judge. Like, that is his name. He's not the judge. Like, yes, he is the judge, but God is judge. The righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every matter and for every work. I have a note here that says, at his time it will happen. And it reminds me of Isaiah 60:22, which reads, the least one shall become a clan, and the smallest one a mighty nation. I am the Lord, in its time I will hasten it. God has the power to do what he has the power to do more than you imagine, but he will do it at his time. You know, I've been thinking and spending a lot of time with God this morning and just reflecting and giving thanks to God for how he has been there for me. Because God has been so good. This past year, God has done more for me than I can possibly imagine. When I reflect on the goodness of God and how he has met me this year, it was not in the way that I had expected, because there was the vision that I had in my head. Like, I thought when I turned 22, I had a good feeling about being 22, that so much goodness would come from it. But what I thought was not what God gave me. He gave me more than I could even fathom. And I'm sitting here now turning 23 and I'm like, oh my gosh, God is so good, because he gave me what I needed more than what I wanted. I prayed for things and one of them is coming to pass. Like, a lot of them are coming to pass actually, but not in the way that I imagined them. And it's the most beautiful thing to experience. And I think about like the fact that it is so important to trust in God, because he is just that good. And God knows everything. God knows everything. He is the Father. He is our love. He's everything. And if God himself, who knows everything, tells you to trust him, why wouldn't you trust him? I said in my heart, with regard to the children of man, that God is testing them, that they may see that they themselves are but beasts. So reading this actually reminds me of James 1:13 that reads, let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. Just to clarify, that's when I think about James 1:13, when I read God is testing them. But when I also read, like, they themselves are but beasts, I think about the fact that we really are out here just being humans. We need Jesus, because we live in a world where everything is spiritual. It's like some people would say, it's really not that deep. Like, it's really not that deep. Oh, listen to music. It's really not that deep. But let me tell you right now, it is that deep. And you need to be careful. And you need to be aware and spiritually alert, because it is that deep. For what happens to the children of man and what happens to the beasts is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath, and man has no advantage over the beasts, for all is vanity. So as I read this, I think about Genesis 1:26, and it reads, then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And it's like, as much as it says here that, hey, you know, you're nothing but a beast, at the end of the day, we are more than a beast. Like, yes, we are associated with the fact that we die similarly to animals. We are all going to die. We established that, I think, in the last chapter. But it's the fact that we should never forget that we are representatives of God, which also reminds me of Matthew 28:19, which reads, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit." So we are representatives of God, and we have a job to do, which is make disciples of all nations. All go to one place, all are from the dust, and to dust all return. This life is temporary. This body is temporary. I just want to clarify that. That's the note I have. Who knows whether the spirit of man goes upward and the spirit of the beast goes downward into the earth? And the little note I have here is that humanity lies in the ability to seek a relationship with the Creator. Because I want to highlight that we have been blessed to have a spirit, and we are called to have a relationship with God. Therefore, we are called, or we have the opportunity to spend eternity and have a life more than what is happening right now. We are called to eternity, and we have more than this temporary. Like, we are eternal beings. God created us for eternity with Him, or we have the opportunity to have eternity with Him. And I think that could be a difference between an animal, is that it's not given the same opportunity as we are. And I think people would read that and think because they don't have that same opportunity, then, they won't be with us in heaven. But I don't know. Me personally, I would like to believe that animals are going to be with us in heaven, like especially our pets. That's a little side note, a little side vent, if you will. So I saw that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his work, for that is his lot. When I read that, I think that is our responsibility from God. And ending this chapter, I'm reading, "Who can bring him to see what will be after him?" When I read that, I think about that we should enjoy the season of now, and we should enjoy the season while it lasts, because we can't think about the next step, the next step, the next step. Oof, this is a personal attack. Well, not attack, but a personal conviction right now, is that we can't keep thinking about the next thing. We also need to take time and enjoy what we have now, because as much as we're thinking about the next thing, is the next thing even promised? Let that settle in. So that concludes our chapter for today. I'm just checking again. Was it chapter 3 or chapter 4? Yes, chapter 3. That concludes chapter 3 for today. And I guess the little ending that I want to give with regards to all this, considering this is a journey about grief, is that right now I'm just reflecting on the fact that there is a time for everything. And I think, for example, for me today, as it's my birthday, I'm thinking I need to allow myself to live and enjoy my birthday, as much as I also need to allow myself to hurt and miss my grandmother, because she's not here with me today, and this is the second birthday that I will be celebrating without her. But the fortunate thing about this year, in comparison to last year I celebrated without her, is that this year I can walk in the knowledge that she is alive in Jesus, and I can trust in that. And I can trust that one day I will see her again, even though she's not here right now. She's in a far better place. She is at rest, and she's in paradise. That is my prayer. That is my hope. That is my belief. And I am still here. I am still living. And my love for her is not gone. It's not dead. And I'm allowed to miss her. I am allowed to go about today, enjoying today, and not feeling the guilt of the fact that I'm enjoying it without her, because she would have wanted me to have the best day ever. She is the reason why birthdays are so important to me, because she made sure that every birthday I had was spectacular. And that is why birthdays are just so important to me. So I would like to actually take that as a tradition. Like, let that be a tradition to say, if it's somebody's birthday, let it be special. Let it be as special as it possibly can, because she gave me that blessing, and I want to give that blessing to others. And it just reminds me so much of Jesus right now, to be like, Jesus loves and forgives us, and he called us to do the same for others. And we should turn to him, receive the love and forgiveness, and give that same love and forgiveness to others. Because really, this world is so short, and I want to live today in appreciation of the fact that I am still alive. I am still here. God is not done with me, and God is not calling me for a different path in my life. You know what I mean? Like death, that's what I mean. But he is still calling me on this earth to do something, and I truly give thanks for that, and I'm so grateful for that. And let me tell you something, it is so hard to grieve on days that you're expected to be rejoicing, or it's so hard to rejoice in days when you are still grieving but you are called to rejoice. I think that's why I enjoyed today's reading and found it so fitting for this special day, is the fact that there is a time for everything. And it reminds me of the fact that when I was grieving this past year, because it was like the first year without my grandmother, it was like first birthdays. I was the first birthday to be had in the family without her there. So that was really hard to go through, because I felt like nobody understood me. But God was with me, thank God. My fiance was there for me. Thank you, my fiance. And I don't feel like I let my family in well enough to know what I was going through. But I'm grateful for the people that were there for me. And it was the first Christmas without her. It was the first New Year's without her. The first Easter, the first April Fools, the first holiday without her, the first everything. There's a lot of little things, and it's like it hurts so much to be going through all this without her there. And I think last time, like the past year, I had been so fixated on the fact that I wanted to make it enough. I wanted to make it good enough. I wanted to help people through the first Christmas. I wanted to make sure that they didn't entirely feel the sting of the loss of my grandmother, because I wanted them to enjoy. I wanted for the Christmas to, like the tradition she started, to be carried on. I wanted that so badly. But every morning, a holiday, an occasion, something would take place, it would hit me so badly. And from that experience, it has all taught me that, you know what, today's reading also is teaching me that I'm allowed to feel both. I'm allowed to cry, I'm allowed to miss, I'm allowed to mourn, because I trust that, I think it's Matthew 5:4, that I will be comforted, because blessed are those who mourn. And I'm also allowed to enjoy my birthday, to live life, because she may not be here with me in the flesh, but my love for her is still living on. And I can trust and have faith that she is alive in Jesus. So yeah, I want to advise you, piece of advice is that it is okay to feel. You're allowed to be like Joseph, cry, collect yourself, keep pushing forward. And if you don't feel like on the special day that you are going through and you can't keep pushing forward, it's okay. It's okay to say, I know that this is a Christmas, I know that this is a birthday, but I don't want to enjoy that. I don't want to celebrate it. I want to hurt. You are allowed to do that. But never forget that God says there is a time for something. There is a time for you to grieve. There is a time for you to laugh and enjoy and live life. Do not prolong a season in your life when it is not needed, when it is not necessary. Do not hold on to a season when God is calling you to the next season of your life. Walk in what you are going through with God and allow him to guide you through this. Even as I'm talking, it's hurting so much because I miss her so much. But I'm also going to allow myself to miss her and also allow myself to enjoy my day, enjoy my birthday, and thank God for this day. So, thank you for watching. I hope you have a blessed day today. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please share something in the comments about how this video impacted you. If there's anything that stood out to you, I advise also, if you are willing, please share this video with somebody that you may think may be benefiting from it as well. And yeah, just thank you for watching, and may God continue to be with you in this moment that you are going through in your grief as much as he has been there for me. So yeah, thank you for watching.